Hello and welcome to another episode of Marketing for Financial Advisors. I'm your host today, Donovan Stull. Joined with me is David Michalski of the Advisors Platform team. He's one of our marketing coordinators here at Advisors Platform. David, thank you for joining us again on this episode. Super happy to have you back.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So you and I were just talking about this a little bit here. Webinars are dead, or are webinars dead? The last 2.5 years have really changed for just about everybody in the financial industry, really just, the entire world. And, I'm not going to go too much into it, but COVID really changed the entire industry of how we market, how we are in front of people, how we, put information out there. And I think that just completely just shook up the industry to the core. I would say that prior to March of 2020, there were few, if any, advisors who were routinely doing webinars. Webinars were just kind of new. They were there. If you wanted to watch it, you could, but it was nothing that was being actively promoted all the time, for just about everybody. Fast forward, March 15th, March 28th, 2020, everybody had to learn how to do a webinar, and they learned how to do it very, very quickly. Everybody was doing webinars, right? The rug got pulled out from under their feet. All of these live events were being canceled. You couldn't do it anymore, and you had to do it. But then all of a sudden, probably July, August, September, things are kind of, baseline. Webinars kind of were getting oversaturated, wouldn't you say?
And that was the question I was going to have for you, is if you thought that over these last couple of years that the audience was just bombarded, and I'm not even just saying the world of financial planning. I mean, it just seems like everybody and everything was just doing everything through a webinar or putting things out there digitally. And so that was actually going to be my question to you: is do you think that the market just became oversaturated?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, like I was saying there, everybody had to learn how to do it and do it quickly, and they wanted to replace what their normal schedule was for in-person events, right? So many advisors, they'll plan out their entire year of marketing and say, okay, I'm going to do an event on this day, this week, and this month, and have it all the way planned out 3, 6, even a full year in advance. And that's perfect. Well, when you had all of that planned out, everybody said, okay, we need to do webinars and conduct them the exact same way. And some people were doing them live, and some people were recording them, but it just became one of those things where they were still trying to mail people something. Hey, scan this QR code and come to our webinar on Thursday at 6 p.m. And, you can eat your dinner while you watch this. They try to make it as much as they could, but people just got tired of it, right? They had already been cooped up at the house, and, some people wanted to hurry up and leave. Some people didn't want to, but regardless, it was just nonstop webinars all the time. But fast forward a little bit, webinars sort of became the norm, right? And I think everybody were just kind of used to it. It didn't feel as saturated as much, but I still think that people were definitely still utilizing it. Now, fast forward even now to today. Do you see, David, as many advisors doing nearly as many webinars as, back in 2020?
No, with the country opening back up again, and I hear a lot from advisors that people are wanting to do the face-to-face. They're wanting to get out back to doing seminars. So the kind of webinar thing has kind of dropped off. Now, I do have some advisors who have said they only want to do webinars, right? They don't want to do face-to-face or, get in front and do workshops and things like that. But for the most part, I hear from advisors is that we're doing in-person events again, right? And so it, like you said, the webinar thing kind of has dropped off in terms of, advisors doing them. And that kind of actually leaves a question that I have for you with that is, what do you think webinars are best used for? Should they be used as a sales tool? Should they be used as a marketing tool? Should it just be a resource? Like what you're producing webinars, you're putting it out there. Why? For what reason?
No, that's a fantastic question. And I think that it can be a little bit of both, but primarily, um, webinars are really good sales tools that is almost just passive marketing. If you can take the time to record a webinar, you know, any time of day, whenever you feel like it, whenever you have the opportunity to do it, and then just put it out there for your audience to see at their own convenience, why not do it? You know, I think, like you said, so many advisors are like, "Look, I'm just ready to be back in person. I don't want to do webinars again." But why don't you have a webinar that is just stock content that's available for someone, right? Taxes and retirement, Social Security, something about niche marketing, Medicare, estate planning, general retirement planning that covers all of it in one. Why don't you have that available as a resource, as a sales tool for people, right? It doesn't need to be marketed to the masses all the time. I mean, I think you have advisors, most advisors that we speak to average about 1,500, 2,000 people in their database, give or take. And how often are they marketing to that database in general, right? I think how often do you hear advisors saying, yep, we drip on our list nonstop, all the time, or they send out a weekly email that's kind of junk content, right?
What's interesting is I very, very rarely hear advisors talking about a drip campaign or passive marketing, things like that. When I get the call, or we have the Zoom meeting, it's how can you hurry up and do something now, right? And it's like, okay, I need to fill this seminar up in 30 days. Well, what have you been doing the past couple of years to get out to those 1,500, 2,000 people?
Mm-hmm.
Well, nothing. So you haven't reached out to anybody, but all of a sudden you're gonna set up a seminar and you expect 100 people to show up. So yeah, I mean, and I think the words you just said, passive marketing, to me, that's exactly what these things could be used for, and would be a fantastic tool for an advisor to create that drip campaign, to get people to show up for their events.
And it's great too, because all right, David, I've invited you. You got my ad on Facebook or something like that to an upcoming dinner seminar on taxes and retirement, and you're excited about it. You say, "Yep, I'm going to be there." Day of the event comes, and you just don't feel like going for one reason or another, right? You don't feel well. You had a long day at work. You're tired. You don't actually really like the restaurant that you were invited to, so you don't feel like going. Yeah, it doesn't matter what your excuses. I'm just no call, no show, not a big deal. Okay. So then would it not be beneficial for the advisor to say, if I'm the advisor, cool, email the following day, "Hey, David, insert name here. Sorry we missed you last night at the blank event, blah, blah, this and that. Here is a webinar on the exact same topic that we were discussing last night that you can watch at your convenience," or give them, it's going to be airing tonight at 6 p.m. or whatever, the actual date and time is. Perfect. Now you have the option to watch this at home at your own convenience on your own time. Will you be as attentive to being in person? Maybe, maybe not. But you're still given the opportunity to book a phone appointment. You're still given the opportunity to learn all of that great information. And if I, as the advisor, set up the marketing piece correctly, I can have a whole drip automation campaign set up that says, after the program, "Hey, if you didn't get a chance to book your appointment, click here." Or, "Sorry, you didn't get to stay till the very end. Here's that calendar link that we talked about." Or a week later, "Here's another resource that I can offer to you," whether it's a video or a download, a guide, a brochure, something. Like, why are advisors not taking that time to build all of that out? I mean,
and what a great lead generator to me. That we get asked that question all the time. What can I do to generate leads? There you go, right here. Mm-hmm. Right? You create a webinar that somebody watches. Next thing you know, they're passing it along to friends and family. And hey, you got it. I mean, come on.
Oh, the referrals.
This could be just like hitting the lottery with it. And again, it's let's do this and build this thing up over time versus, oh, why can't you give me 3,000 names tomorrow?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's great, but 2,999 or yeah, 999 of those names aren't going to be names that are going to do you any good. But putting these
Right.
webinars out and letting people watch this stuff for the last year or two and get to know you and get to know how, who you are as a person and how much information you have and knowledge I mean, that could be an enormous thing for an advisor to use, as like you said, the drip campaign.
No, and you mentioned something too, just talking about like, is it sales, is it marketing, is it a combination? And I think that, if you can create webinars that, all different topics and so forth, and you can just have them built out as sales and everything else. I mean, why not have a Social Security webinar that, you build it up. All right, maybe you have to update it once every 1 or 2 years, based on the numbers and so forth. But advisors, take the 30 to 45 minutes to record it, and then it's done, right? You don't have to worry about it after that. And then, okay, we say, look, we're going to set up an automation 6 months before they turn 62. As long as we have that information in our database, we're going to send them a webinar all about Social Security. That's a presentation that you would do, for anybody in person anyway, right? And David, let's assume you are 62 years old. 7 years ago at 55, you came to an advisor's event and they were talking about this, this, and this. And you're like, yeah, you know what? This is the advisor I want to work with, but it's just now is not the right time, right? Maybe you feel you don't have enough money, or you're just scared, right? You're talking about trusting your life savings to someone, but you feel like you trust them. You still need a little more time to think about it. That happens a lot, right? But then, cool, you're in this advisor's database. You see their little junk mail that comes through. But then, all right, I'm approaching 62. David, you're invited to this upcoming Understanding Social Security webinar. That's all you needed, right? And now I'm here. You brought me in. That was the last piece that I needed to hear. I mean, do you think that more advisors could actively use webinars in their day-to-day practice, without having to make it a giant production?
I mean, you said it right there. First of all, if somebody's going to, if they're doing an in-person event, right, they're putting a workshop, seminar on, whatever it is, they have to prepare for it. What a better way to prepare for it than to create a little webinar about it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that would be a great way to promote your in-person events. And again, like you said, I know the topics and, things have to change over time, but you're putting the time and effort into preparing for these these in-person events anyways. Why not just take a few minutes to record yourself and the topics that you're going to talk about? And again, you don't have to go into great details, but just little feeders for people to see, what you're going to discuss. And again, the knowledge and the trust factor, and you're doing it anyways. Why not put it out there for people to see?
Right.
That's
yeah. And I think the biggest thing that, I don't want to say frustrates me, but that frustrates that a lot of advisors tend to do is, they will, they'll take the time and, effort to build up, a great in-person seminar. And, then they don't maybe necessarily do as well with their webinars, but at least have the information out there. I mean, why not offer the same resource, right? Like, I can't in good faith just pass someone off and say, okay, you know what? They didn't show up to the event. They're not a good lead. We said, I mean, how many different things could stop you from showing up to an event? Car problems, or you just didn't feel like going, or the weather was bad, or it's too hot. We're in Florida. Hey, it's 98 degrees outside today. I do not feel like stepping outside this door, to go sit in my car for 15 to 30 minutes driving to a location and then having to be in a stuffy room. There's so many different, factors that go into it. We can go on and on just about that, but, don't assume that, all right, they just weren't good leads because they didn't show up to the event. Okay. Let's get them on the phone. Let's invite them to the next webinar or to the next seminar, or, offer that piece. I jokingly said here at the beginning, webinars are dead, but really they still serve such a powerful purpose. And I don't think enough advisors are taking advantage of it.
I would agree with you. And I think again, just based on our discussions and what we've talked with, is I think webinars could be a perfect tool for that drip campaign and for that constantly reaching out to your clients and your database, and getting them to those in-person events. Like, don't use, to me, it's like, maybe it's not using the webinar as in replace of the in-person event.
But yeah, that's a big one. I don't want to cut you off on that, but
yep.
Yeah, that's a big one. Don't think that these webinars are a replacement. Use it as an addition to. I spoke on a previous webinar about that. Marketing in slow seasons or passive marketing. Allow them to be. Hey, I'm going on vacation. I don't need to do an in-person seminar. Have it just running there, right? Invite people as you normally would. So yeah, it's not a replacement to an in-person live event.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's so. In answer to your question, are webinars that me personally, I don't think so. If they're used the correct way.
Yeah, that's such a key point. As long as they're used the correct way, it's wild to me that we can still be having this discussion. I mean, like I said, I know of advisors who back in early 2019 or late 2018 even were already doing webinars and using them effectively. And then by the time that the 2020, catastrophe happened, they were already above the curve, right? They didn't need to worry about learning how to create them or learning how to do them or, whatever else. Those are things that were already done. And now, even then, here we are 2 years removed from that, and we are still utilizing webinars effectively. Those advisors are actually doing, what they're supposed to be doing. So if you're an advisor out there right now and you say, look, we did our webinars in 2020, we're not doing them again, maybe just can reconsider that a little bit. Don't think that this is it's totally dead in the water. Utilize it for the people who are in your database, right? If you can take the time to record 1, 2, 3 different webinars that you keep in your bank, make it look and feel live. Don't feel like it needs to be absolutely perfect, right? Have your ums and buts and uhs, and if you need a cough or take a bit of water, it makes it look and feel live. Now we're trying not trying to bait and switch people and think that you're actually live there with them, but just make it feel that way, and have it available for people. If you do an in-person event and no one shows up, send them or not no one, but someone doesn't show up, then send them the webinar that corresponds with it. Don't feel like you have to, only use it for, okay, we need to fill this and make it live and do it, only this way and that way. Just consider the different options that you have with it. David said, doesn't think that webinars are dead. And I could not agree, more on that. I think the opportunity is still very, very real, about this. And if anybody listening today, you want to learn more on how to utilize these webinars appropriately, we'll put a link in the description to talk to someone about that. But we just want to make sure that if you have the opportunity to utilize webinars, do it to the proper degree, even if you just need some coaching on how to do it. But David, thank you again. I think this is going to be very beneficial to a lot of advisors and marketing staff that are listening today. When it comes to it, like you said, if you're not using it for a drip, I think that this is still an awesome way to still get in front of the people that you want without really a lot of marketing effort that's required on any part whatsoever.
I would agree with you on that one. And again, thank you for the time to allow me to be a part of this and hopefully share some information and with the advisors out there.
Awesome. Well, David, thank you again to all listening. We appreciate you being on another episode of Marketing for Financial Advisors, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.